pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think we have an oath of office first.
Yeah. Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Michigan, Charter and Code of Ordinances of the City of Cedar Springs, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Downtown Development Authority member to the best of my ability. I will.
Oh.
Hey, Bernie, glad you made it.
Just in time, just in time.
12:01, that's late.
Roll call, Ms. Arp,
Here.
Ms. Atchison,
Here.
Mr. Byer.
Hey.
You're right on time. Ms. Ensley.
Here.
Ms. Gates. Mr. Heiler.
Here.
Ms. Howland. Ms. Powell. Mr. Ringler is present. Public comments, those citizens wishing to speak on agenda or non-agenda items will be allowed a maximum of 4 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during the meeting citizens will be allowed to address the DDA. Please state your name and address for the record if you would like. Anybody? All righty, conflicts of interest and ex parte communication.
No.
They get anything to move here.
Here, I don't even have mine.
All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the agenda. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at that. Approve the agenda unless there are any additions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And it would include the minutes of our informational and regular meeting of January 27th, along with the balance sheet and the revenue and expense reports.
I'll make that motion.
So. The comments. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Consent agenda also carries. Move on to unfinished business. Not have any. We'll move on to new business. Red Flannel Festival facade grant application should be contained in your packet. I believe starting.
Going to do a little, so we have 4 facade grant applications in your packet today. I reviewed all of them. If necessary, the city planners approved it, everything's good to go. So just need your approval. Once I sign the agreement, then they can hire the contractors. A lot of them, I think the contractors are looking for work right now. So they say, that'll be done within 30 days. So the first one, Red Flannel Festival, they want to redo that awning in the front of the building to look similar to the CS Cannabis awning, that aluminum. They had all of the detail of the material in the packet here. Total grant, $1,850. Sent upon them giving us a final paid invoice when the project is done.
Do you have a total for all these? Did you happen to add that up?
I didn't because I'm not sure all of them will be done before June 30. If they get started mid-March. Well, but this is the only time they can submit them I'm bringing these a month early because I had them reviewed. I thought the sooner we could get these going. Typically you would see these at the March meeting.
It's fine. I'm just saying we had so much in the budget for this year, right?
50,000 and the one facade was already used. Laura, do you remember what your facade? 3,500 or something? Yeah. was the DDA's portion. So we do have a good chunk left.
Sure, we weren't going over budget.
I listed them individually. If you could make a motion individually, that would be wonderful.
Okay, is there any, well, do we want to go down this? Is there any comments on any of these specifically? Red Flannel, Baker Insurance, Copies Plus,
Blaine, and say the totals of,
the
Yeah.
video, we may want.
so, Baker Insurance Group, they are redoing their, front awning, same as Red Flannel. So next to each other, it'll be kind of like a uniform look, the two businesses together. However, Randy is redoing the sign out front as well. So the total that he presented was $10,059.58. However, he had to redo his sign because it was too big. Projecting can only be 10 square feet and his was 15. I do have the updated sign was in your packet, but he didn't give me the updated cost. So his is over 10,000. We only contribute up to 5,000, 50% or up to 5,000. So he would take the whole 5. Everything above that would be on his dime.
Excuse me, but I do see a cost project of $10,059. So he did add that in there. It says the awning cost and installing sign, new sign total.
Total is the wrong size sign. So he didn't update this page when he gave me the new drawing of the sign. With Randy individually on that, if you don't mind.
These few plus mine are gonna wipe it out, pretty close to wipe it out. The 15 grand, yeah, I think they're going to with mine and these few. So this one's 11,000.
One, that would be a new fiscal year facade.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
So Copies Plus is a sign only. They gave us a picture of the existing sign, picture of the new proposed sign. Total is 800, so 400 would be our cost. CC Main Street, 6 new windows. So 3 for his business, 3 for the law office next to him. And then the 2 doors in the middle would be 2 new commercial doors. So the door on the north of his property that goes to the upstairs, that's not part of this project. Just the 2 commercial doors for his business and the law office. 6 windows. His estimated total was $11,986. So we would be on the hook for 5,000, but I don't. Give me a timeline. His is a little bit more extensive project.
Well, there's enough money even with all of them.
What's that?
I mean, even if they all come in this year.
15,000 in the budget, right, for last year?
5. That would be our.
280, Laura.
I'd added up it's just a little under 15,000, so about 14,800.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, cool.
And then just as we walked in today, Perry brought me a new one for, Russ Perry, 90 North Main. I haven't even looked at it yet. So if this is good, I'll bring this to you in March. Yeah, July 1, after July 1.
Excellent.
Right.
The insurance spot, not Baker's, but the other one. They've been in there for probably since the building was built, so that's a great addition.
Four properties. And does anybody have any questions on any of these after looking through the packet? as the, do these as a roll call, please. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the Red Flannel Festival Facade Grant application.
I'll make that motion.
Or was that you that made the motion?
No.
Lisa. She's on it today. Okay, and we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yeah.
Ms. Hensley, Ms. Gates, Mr. Hart.
Yep.
Ms. Howell,
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
Motion carries. I would entertain a motion for the Baker Insurance Group Facade Grant application.
A motion.
A second.
This financial in nature, we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Byer, Ms. Hensley, Ms. Gates, Mr. Hyler,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. I would entertain a motion, please, for the Copies Plus facade grant application.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Jody, as this is financial in nature, we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Byer.
Yeah.
Ms. Hensley, Ms. Gates, Mr. Hyler.
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
So votes yes. Motion carries. And finally, I would entertain a motion for the CC Main Street Properties facade grant application.
Second.
So, Jody, as this is financial in nature, we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Arp,
Yes.
Ms. Atchison,
Yes.
Mr. Byer,
Yes.
Ms. Hensley. Ms. Gates,
Yes.
Mr. Hyler,
Yes.
Ms. Howland,
Yes.
Ms. Powell.
Yes.
There also votes yes. That motion carries. Thank you so much, everyone. Awesome. All right, we move on to our strategic planning wrap-up.
Want a tight meeting?
Right on time.
Well done. Great. Well, good to see, most everybody again. So I think Sally, I don't think we've met. Lisa, I don't think we've met, but good to be back here. And that does sort of lay out, the expectation, right? Strategic plan wrap up. It's not continuing conversation. It's getting it done today, right? So I think we're in a good spot to do that. What I wanted to do is sort of have a little bit of conversation. A little bit of conversation. I'll skip introductions. But I have a little bit of conversation about kind of where we left off and kind of what I sort of, I guess, digested and some of the big takeaways from last week's conversation. Okay. So some of the things that I took away based on conversation and for those of you who weren't here last time, this is just sort of like open floor. There's no raising hands. We just kind of shout stuff out. Travis, that's not what I meant, you know, that sort of thing. Okay. So what I took away was, we as the DDA want to do fewer things, but we want to do them better. Okay. Let's focus our efforts. Let's knock these handful of things out of the park and not spread ourselves too thin over the course of, you know, a million different initiatives. Right. Lot of discussion about connectivity between the DDA and stakeholders downtown, but also within the stakeholder group downtown. When there's a new business or something like that, how are we connecting with them? How are they getting plugged into sort of the different efforts and stuff going on in the community? Improving the product that is, oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, you were saying I was dropping out last time, so I'll try not to move around so much. Improving the product that is downtown Cedar Springs. I mean, we can tell a story all that we want to. If it's not an experience that people want to have and that we want people to have in the downtown, that's something we really want to try to beef up. And then kind of in relation to that, continuing to tell downtown story. And I specifically put it as tell downtown story, where it's not just market, not just advertise, these are the things that we have, but also help tell the stories of the successes of downtown, why it's a good investment in downtown, why maybe an anchor business decided to be here versus somewhere else and that sort of thing. So those were some of the sort of takeaways, and I jotted down a bunch of notes after the conversation so it was fresh. Does this sort of resonate for everybody who was here last time as sort of some of the big takeaways? Do you feel like there's anything that I missed? Do you feel like this is putting too much weight on things that maybe weren't as important in your guys' minds from last time?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
All right. And bear in mind, nothing is set in stone today. We can always go back and that sort of stuff. So really what we're trying to do here today is sort of identify what are the big things that we want to focus on in terms of what the DDA can actually move the needle on for the downtown, and start to flesh out how we're going to go about accomplishing that. So what I put on here were sort of the big picture sort of buckets that we talked about last time. I left them all there because I didn't want to necessarily eliminate anything just because we were still kind of half-baked last time. But I highlighted the things in green that really seemed to rise to the top. The ones that aren't highlighted were ones that either we didn't really talk a whole lot about, or we felt like just, you know what, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We have bigger fish to fry. We'll focus on the other things first. I did leave that off-street parking lots in yellow as sort of like we should kind of go back to this conversation, just because parking was something that came up a number of times during the discussion, not as necessarily everything hinges on that, but I just didn't want to necessarily lose that as a focus and come into today being like, parking, we're not going to worry about. Okay. Does that make sense? So I feel like, so I tried to capture and sort of wordsmith a little bit kind of where we left off. I would just assume we just start at the top and work our way down. Does that make sense for you guys? So, and what I do want to do coming out of today is I would like to leave this with an understanding of kind of where things rank priority wise. I'm a big believer that it's like, if you just have a laundry list of 6 or 8 things and say that they're all the same kind of importance, it just kind of means that none of them are necessarily that important. So what I would like to do is have that sort of prioritization to where 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, it'll give you something to look back on. It's like, hey, if we haven't really made forward progress on these first 3 things, why are we even talking about 4, 5, and 6? It's something to sort of keep yourselves accountable with the decisions that you made at this point in time. That makes sense? So the biggest thing that not just came out of the survey that you all did, but definitely was the biggest thing coming out of the conversation last week was developing the business mix in the downtown. We really want a more diverse business mix. We want less vacancy, all those good things that we all want to have in our downtown district. So I guess before we get into kind of the how, are we all comfortable with that being our big number 1 priority?
I think so.
Anybody feel opposed to that? And again, we can always come back to it, but just kind of trying to methodically move forward. Yeah. Okay. So if we're saying, so I'll leave that at 1. So these are a couple of things that we sort of spitballed a little bit last time in terms of activities that could potentially done to sort of like problem solve for that. So one of the things that we talked about is like trying to sort of quantify what are the business needs in the community. Everybody can say, oh, we need a cute dress shop or something. If the numbers don't support that there's actually that commerce to happen in Cedar Springs, it's you're going up an uphill battle. So one of the things we talked about was actually sort of trying to undertake some sort of, I'd change that to a commercial leakage analysis and not necessarily a retail, because you can get into a bunch of different kinds. And this is something typically, I actually this morning tried to see if I could get ChatGPT to give us something, and it said that there was not enough information I just thought, oh man, maybe we can just use AI to generate, but no, there wasn't the case. So tried to find a hack, it wasn't necessarily there. So I think we'll need to, I think that the idea would need to Parker, or excuse me, to partner with some sort of commercial brokerage in kind of greater Grand Rapids to sort of come up with this. A lot of the bigger firms will do this on a regular basis, especially when they're marketing properties on 28th Street or that sort of thing. So that coupled with what we talked about also, which is getting into the vacancy, who actually has stuff available for rent, who do we contact for things? I know, Laura, you talked about quite a bit. It's like you end up sort of being the clearinghouse a lot of times for what's available and what sort of businesses would they entertain and that sort of thing. I think it felt like there was a lot of energy about doing some sort of inventory of all the properties in the DDA district, what's available, who owns them, square footages. You know, I've seen ones where you sort of put down either a condition, sort of an analysis of the condition, or it's like, okay, this one's built out to be an office. Don't necessarily try to get a boutique retail store in there. Or, oh, it could be converted from this sort of use to this sort of use with just moving some superficial stuff, no load bearing walls and you know, that sort of thing. This could end up being a pretty heavy lift from a, you know, manpower perspective. I wanted to get your guys' take on where this sort of sits with you all.
Well, I think we start with the vacant buildings, guys, right? Like, that's not a heavy lift. There's not, you know, there's a handful of them, maybe 6, 7. You said 4, but then I started thinking about it. I'm like, there's more. And I think we start with the vacant buildings and reaching out to whoever the owner is and seeing, are you leasing them? Are you not leasing them? You know, what, if you're gonna lease them, how much, you know? I mean, cause all of us have business owners come to us asking us, you know, hey, I mean, I get it a lot, obviously, because I'm a real estate firm, you know, what's available in town? And I'm like,
Laura, would you mind working with myself and maybe some of my staff? Like, I need the sheet that when somebody says, can you come and list my property for sale? So you go there and you go, it's a 4-bedroom, it's a 3-bathroom, blah, blah, blah. Can I have that sheet? We'll identify through the tax system who the owners are. That's the sheet I need next to send it to that property owner. Can you please fill this out?
yep, that's easy.
Piece that together?
My questions, is it, you know, was that best to be kept with the city and housed with the city as the clearinghouse for that?
I think part of clarifying this too is, what is your path or what is your intended entry point for anybody who's kicking the tires on downtown Cedar Springs? Is it call City Hall? Is it call Laura, who's, you know, a DDA wearing a couple of different hats? Just so every in theory, everything has the same entry point versus.
Thing for rental houses, like, I mean, at least 2 to 3 a day. Who is there any rentals available in the city? And I'm like, God, good luck.
Well, and part
You
of this
know.
too, and I'm not trying to, you know, plant seeds or anything like that, but if you have vacant properties that you want to really try to get into the hands of folks, I mean, you can proactively market those sorts of things, whether it's, you know, social, you know, through social media, or, you know, there's a lot of communities where if they have vacant spaces, they'll have, you know, window, you know, whether it's clings or stuff hanging in the windows being like, you know, you might see a vacant building, but we see opportunity. Here's who to call for what the, you know, for what the information is, just so in that way, everything's going through the same, you know, again, like I said, whether it's City Hall or it's a QR code to a web page that has all of the vacant, you know, properties, or, I mean, there's different ways to skin the cat, right? So, yeah.
I would think maybe that we might want to have them approach the city and then even, Darla, couldn't we put that like on the website maybe? Eventually. I know we're working on that, but. I mean, so it would be easier for people to find, or.
I turned it down. Apologize.
Facebook page that says for rent in Cedar Springs.
I think Facebook pages get lost. I would,
Yeah.
I must say though, when I came to town originally, this was the first place I stopped. What are the rules? What's available? Nobody had any answers. I had nothing to work with.
The same way when I bought my building. Mm-hmm.
Just feel like you're left in limbo. So it's knocking on doors, talking to this one, before I found anything even available.
And I think that is the.
Well, and when you
I think
came
in
to
an
town, there was a
ideal
lot.
situation, not only do you have the information and the, you know, information, but the blessing from those and from the stakeholders in the downtown, it's like, you know what? Everybody's gonna point you to City Hall. They will get you started, whether that's they're walking into the brewery and asking you guys, or they're inquiring with the chamber or whatever. It's like, here's your, so everybody's getting the same information, the same next steps, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Of local building owners that rent businesses in the town or rent homes in the town or rent apartments in the town. I mean, maybe it's just as simple as that. Here, call them and see what they have available. I don't know, but I mean, they naturally stop at a real estate office on purpose, right? So maybe that's something that I have as well. So when somebody calls, I can say, here's a list of all of the people instead of going, I seriously have no idea. It's frustrating sometimes.
So you guys had said before you have a code that they have to pay $25 a month for vacant buildings. Will we have who we're charging for that listed somewhere that we can contact them that way? We don't have that.
Period to get to being charged. I mean, there's a period of time where if you're in transition, we don't charge you, but once it's been vacant for a period, number of months or whatever, then we start charging that 25. And then that's when I said last Tuesday, I really think some of these that have been sitting, paying $25 a month, it's time but that's an ordinance change. It's gonna take time to do that, but definitely think needs to be done. Increase that.
Those that we're billing every month $25 right now. To find that information, that'd be a starting point, I guess.
Well, don't they have to register if they own a building in town and they're gonna rent it, don't they have to be that has to be registered, right? So there we have our list.
Point.
So it's just a matter of
Yep.
knowing what's available, knowing what the lease rates are, square footages, that sort of thing.
And we want to be readily available to show what, to kind of say, these things are available. If we want more businesses, we want it to be easy.
It's not.
Well, that may
Yeah.
be simple enough
Yeah.
with our new domains, if we have a DDA page on the city website that points to, and you can have that resource there as the clearinghouse. But I think I echo both of these guys. I mean, the same thing when we came here. I mean, I came to City Hall, what's going on and what's available.
Yeah.
Everybody
That
goes,
is where, right.
or she might say, or who, I don't know, what somebody suggests, like, or the chamber, or who knows, I don't know what your response is when somebody comes in, but should be canned, here's the list, it's all the best we could do.
So let me ask sort of a devil's advocate question. So everything that we've talked about now has been, and I think it is 1,000% valid, is being responsive when there are inquiries or when there's somebody expressing interest in coming to Cedar Springs. The baseline needs to be done. I think you guys are on the right track. What are your thoughts on like actual proactive marketing and getting the word out? And because right now it's like they have to have like an interest or enough gumption to express an interest or to do an initial reach out for you to know whether they're interested. Is there a desire to be more proactive and go out and actually, hey, world, we have these opportunities in downtown Cedar Springs. We are looking for XYZ type of businesses.
But if the penalty was a little higher than $25 a month, there would be an incentive for them to want to make sure
Yeah.
that is out there.
That's one of the things that.
We can't
That is the problem that I see all the time is they wanted to say, oh, I don't want that kind of business in my, I hear those kind of things and I go, why would you turn down a renter? Just because you don't happen to agree with what it is they want to sell. I don't understand that.
I'm not sure we have the manpower to, once we
Nope, just
create
wanted
the
to ask the
list,
question, just because, yeah. No,
go to
that's fair
trade
enough.
shows, or I don't know where you go to.
Through a broker or,
For a place for a person that wanted to live here, rental. And it's been a long time, but I don't know where I found a list of rentals in Cedar Springs, but there is an existing website. I think it was rental homes in Cedar Springs or something, but there were quite a few. I think I just Googled homes for rent or apartments for rent in Cedar Springs, and it came up.
You can direct me to that. I would love it because let me just tell you,
I
and I don't,
had to.
listen, I don't make, when somebody rents, when somebody calls me and says, I want to rent a house, I don't make any money, right, guys? Like that's it. My incentive is I want, people
But
in
if
our
you're
town.
helpful, then
Right,
when they're
I'm-
ready to buy,
right.
they'll call
If
you
I
back.
help them and I'm like, listen, and then I'm like, I don't, there's nothing.
I'm sure that landlords have to pay a fee to be on this website. You do, don't you, to be on a website for advertising a rental home or something? Yeah, I think maybe it was Zillow. And I don't know if it was a complete list of rentals, but
Did that this weekend. I was looking for my niece and let me tell you how many I found.
okay, where'd you look?
I Googled, yeah, everywhere.
Maybe everything's full.
Yeah, and in terms of,
Even our bill.
finding stuff online for rentals, typically it would be easier to find something for residential than commercial. I think this is a very specific sort of a targeted sort of thing you guys are talking about. But like you said, Dave, if it's something that can be housed on a sub page out of their city or, something like that, that's updated, every so often, maybe it's something that's on the agenda for every one of your DDA board meetings. Hey, is anybody aware of any new vacancies that have come up or whatever? And it's just sort of a touch point on that too, So
in order. I mean, the first thing is to have this information and have a house somewhere. I mean, step two is gonna be, is gonna be shouting it to the world, but we don't have the resource first. We need that resource.
Isn't it true we're here to develop downtown? Okay, and for rental for talking about renting an apartment, that's one thing. Talking about renting a place for a business, that's a whole nother thing. That's what we should be concerned with.
That creates strong community, that creates walkability and having that multi-use.
It's getting the word out there. That's easy. I mean, I host a TV show on HGTV. I can do a segment just on this. Getting the word out there should be fairly easy, right? We have a resource here. I can do it, but we have to have all of the information to do it, right? So, I mean, once we get it all, holler at me. I'll bring the production team to town and we'll, highlight some of these vacant buildings. But we also need to make sure that when we walk into them, they're in the shape that we want to highlight them and we want to project our image out there as well. So, and I'm happy to do that. I mean, I can do that. That's easy.
I do want to continue moving down the list. The analysis, that's pretty straightforward. That's just somebody making the reach out, making the connection to whether it's, Colliers or Advantage or whoever to do that. So I didn't necessarily put like who's going to own that. I felt like it made sense under this inventory, this sort of, inventorying the opportunities that we're talking about to have an owner to where like, okay, this is who's going to run point on this. So I put Laura and Darla. Is that fair?
Mhm.
That you guys will collaborate on this moving forward? So yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Going back to that vacant building ordinance. That's not that's a city decision, not DDA,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. Would
Yes.
it make sense if that's something that the DDA is like, yes, increase that so it's a motivator for, would that make sense for the DDA to take some formal action to recommend to
Sure.
city
It
council?
would have weight with the city council, for sure.
Okay.
Who's the ultimate approval of the new ordinance or updated ordinance. Mhm.
Do we do it now?
It's now an appropriate time or?
But that's an action item on the next.
All right. So I'll add that to homework and also,
Mhm.
think through what's a reasonable number.
Yeah.
But just definitely needs to be greater than a couple of coffees a month, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Attention getter.
Under under the business development, do we feel like that is enough meat on the bone for the DDA to move forward with? Where we feel like if we accomplish those kind of three things, we know what the financial opportunity is and the types of businesses that could potentially be successful here. We know exactly what the opportunities are, what the rents are, the physical spaces, that sort of thing. And in theory, this vacant building ordinance is increased sufficiently enough to motivate folks from not having chronic vacant spaces. Do we feel like that's enough to move this forward in a tangible way that'll start to deal with that issue that this board identified so strongly last time? Long way of me asking, are we good with these sort of, okay,
BCD.
okay.
Yep.
All right, so again, do fewer things better. I want to have that always be in the back of people's minds, but we also don't want to miss like some critical step, right? Okay. So I think we're good with the first one. The second, third and fourth, I guess I wanted to ask you guys, well, I guess any of these ones that are green here. We feel like this is the order we want to keep them in. If you were prioritizing, what were the biggest things that the DDA should focus on moving forward? If you don't feel like you're growing, and again, I didn't highlight established because we were like, nope, we're not trying to create new events. We just want to beef up the activities that we have. Do we feel like if we don't move forward enough well on this, then we don't even want to talk about order communications? I guess where's this group's thoughts are on where these should sit order wise?
I don't think one should be one, personally. And I personally think that. But I'm just one guy.
Communications is a big one. We aren't communicating what we have and what we don't have or what we need. We're wasting our time.
I'm not saying you can't do things in parallel. I'm not saying that things can't be moving on at the same time. I'm just saying that for a almost entirely, volunteer piece of this, it is really easy for 2 or 3 months to go by and there hasn't been movement on but maybe 1 or 2 things. And so I'm really trying to focus on what are those couple of things that you want to make sure are moving forward on a monthly basis. Click on all 6, then fantastic, but
To grow our signature events, because that brings more commerce to our town, it brings more people to our town. I think that, in my opinion, is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people showed up New Year's Eve. And that's all they could talk about is, we've never been to this town before. It's a cute little town. I see this as gonna be a great spot. And there was a lot of pluses on that particular night that I got feedback from different people, because I
That-
tried to talk to people.
To me, in looking this, obviously, I missed Tuesday regrettably, but 5, the marketing of the district itself seems to me that there's synergy with 1 and 2. And those can really, property acquisition and revitalization is a long-term.
Absolutely.
Those are gonna take time just by the nature of what they are. And those may be on our list every time we do a strategic plan for the next 30 years. But I think
Moving 5 up.
that's, we've got something here with now a website, maybe what's a clearinghouse. We've got a logo already that is on the Facebook page. I think there's synergy in that marketing side and creating the cohesive signage that we have down here and creating an attractive environment that is gonna help those longer term initiatives. And I think those are things that we as a DDA can be a lot quicker and a lot more efficient at focusing.
So let me ask the question. When we're talking about growing events and recreational opportunities downtown. Said, we're not looking to create new stuff, right? Is that still the premise that we're working under? So what does growing these activities mean? Does it mean just cutting a little bit of a bigger check? Does it mean the DDA is going to do this specific part that beefs up Red Flannel Weekend? I'm making stuff up, but it's like, what does that mean? Because if it's primarily just helping spread the word and marketing and that sort of thing, then you can kind of combine a couple of these. We say in the downtown, what is the DDA's role in doing so?
I think partnering with like the chamber and maybe volunteering, so we had more hands on deck, right? Instead of it just being the same people. I think that would be a big deal, right? Obviously cutting more money helps. Because you can have
Participating
more,
in the
yeah,
events.
participate in the events, actually saying, okay, I'll volunteer and I'll do this. I mean, New Year's Eve is, it's a lot of work. So it's a renaissance, yeah, yeah. And
Well, no, that'll be relatively new again, I think, but with concerts that we have, obviously Red Flannel's existing. It is its own entity, but that's still activity, and that
Yeah.
what is the
Yeah.
point of why we're doing this? We're trying to bring people into our community, and we're trying to create connections for people who are in our community. I mean, and all those things are doing that, whether it is Red Flannel or it's the concerts or it's, I mean, the bike race. I mean, we've got untapped potential in some of these just in getting, not just us, but in getting people in our community involved.
Oh, no, we've done a good job with that in the last, say, 5 years, 6 years. There's all kinds of there's signature events, I guess you call them signature events. There didn't used to be any, except Red Flannel Day. That was it.
That is the challenge. There's a wider, casting that wider net and getting more people to actually be aware. I mean, again, for New Year's, how many people came down and like you just said, they haven't been downtown?
well, 'cause, yeah, we did a radio spot in Grand Rapids. We got a ton of people from Grand Rapids. People that, never have been to our town. And then they were stuck in my building because they needed a Uber home and they're like, y'all don't have Ubers here? And I was like, oh boy.
Uh-oh.
So when you said we did an ad downtown, who did that? That was the
The
DDA?
chamber.
That was the chamber? Okay. So I'll be a broken record. If you, what's your guys' homework walking out of this? If it's like, we want to support our events and activities downtown, what does that mean? If Darla has to figure out how that impacts your budget, or what does that look like?
Let me actually jump on what you just said, and this has been a challenge for us for 10 years. Uber. We need Uber in this town. I mean, I don't know what there's something we can do through the government to try to get. I've tried to call them. We've got a couple of local drivers that have done it, but that is a huge thing for, even when we have our events, people from Grand Rapids have a really hard time coming and going, all right, I can stay for a little bit, but I gotta go because I can't get home.
Yeah, they can get here. The Uber will bring them here,
Right.
but getting them home is a whole nother thing. Like we laughed and because we have a big bus,
Right.
we're like, maybe we'll just bring the bus down next year and just, hey, we'll take y'all to
I
one
don't know
central
if there's
spot.
Something through, and you might know this through the right place. Is there a way to try to get, the Ubers and Lyfts of the world that are going, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't had any luck.
Yeah, is there a way to put a blurb out to the drivers that we've got these events in Cedar Springs this weekend? Maybe they would come more this way.
Right.
Well,
the problem, and drivers sometimes are willing to do that. If you know somebody personally, you can text them.
Right.
The problem is if you go on the apps, you can't even get, there's nothing available if you're on the app.
That's a good, if there are I think it would be a really, because I mean, everybody knows this. Once you get to a certain radius outside of kind of GR proper and you try to get an Uber, they'll accept it for 2 seconds and then realize where you are and then cancel it, right? It's happened. So to try to get them to just extend that radius to where they'll always accept one up here, that's probably not going to happen. But if there's a way to somehow what do you call it, geofence for a specific time frame, for a specific weekend or a specific evening, that's a lot easier fish to fry than, you know, trying to.
Would be a key start is that when there is an event, is there a way to let them know that it is
Yeah.
even for a period of
Absolutely.
time?
It's important, right? Like these kids literally just sat in my, till somebody would come and get them.
Right.
Like you
If
can
anybody
stay
would
all
know,
night if you need.
we experienced are. So that's sort of a easy connection, I think, to make.
I can relate to that. All the years I worked in Grand Rapids and people would say, well, where do you live? And I'd say Cedar Springs. Oh, way up there? I'm going, it's not the Yukon. It's just 20 minutes away.
It's like nothing, yeah. Okay, so we're checking in on the rideshare possibility and we're volunteering in events.
I also think one central location for all events to be on, right? Like the chamber, we have a website and we put, if you give us your event, we put it on our website, but if you're a member, but I just feel like there needs to be more of
Because
that.
we don't have a local paper, so, yeah.
I mean, even outside of our town, you know?
be done.
Yeah.
He's going to retire. Yeah.
You're gonna do that, right?
No. Well, Rockford Squire has encouraged Cedar Springs to create a Cedar Springs page in their paper. I'm not going to do, I could be a reporter or something, but I'm not going to create a page. But it's a possibility to have a page in that Squire, but nobody's jumped up to take it, so.
Shouldn't Perry, did you have a thought?
One thing that a lot of us forget is got all the ones for Halloween Spectacular all the way through to the top there, and did have people inquiring about day ads on there, and it doesn't cost you anything, but list of events. I remember.
People look at it. I've never looked at it.
I didn't know it existed.
People ask where they go for all their.
So right now, there is no single comprehensive calendar that has festival type things, library events, any of that that's for, okay.
The city hall calendar has all that information listed on there. Whenever a application is filled out for a community event, there's a box on there for them to check if they want their community event put on the city hall calendar. I don't think anybody ever checks no. I think
There,
No, we had that.
there's a spot for them to check if they want something on the Facebook page. And if they do check yes, they just have to provide it to the clerk and then we'll post it on the Facebook page. But a lot of times people they'll check yes, but then they don't provide to us what they want. So we can't make it up for them. We just have to give up their.
Just having a central listing of them, and then there's also people being aware of it, that they're looking at it, so that's a two-way.
it's always listed on the city calendar, isn't it? Yeah.
So much like we're talking about, so I guess I'm not familiar with the new, like you said, new website, new logo, new brand, that sort of thing. Is that something? I'm sorry.
There is a little logo on the Facebook page, and then we just transferred over domains that had been just forwarded to the Facebook page to the city last meeting. And so they're there as a resource, whether we build out a page on the city website or
For downtown.
for DDA, for the DDA.
Okay, okay.
Or I guess it was the Heart was what it was originally for, but it can be just used as the DDA page.
So I'm hearing we need a go-to event calendar to point people to. So everybody goes to the same spot. You know, you build critical mass when everybody's going to the same thing, when everything's listed in the same spot. City is already
That's new.
a logical one, or
Seems like the logical one, but we have to get the word out there. That's where you find it, because I mean, all of us are like, We didn't even know we had that.
There you go.
A free newspaper's nice.
Just print it off and have your website on there. Like I would post that in the front of my restaurant.
Mhm.
People walk in my door, they see it, they see, oh, that website, they've got a calendar on there. Like, it's good to know, good information that is just easy to put out.
Couldn't that calendar also include what's for rent? And you got an event calendar up here, you okay, big highlight, down here, you got rental available, down here, something else?
I mean, in theory, like, so let's say, like, if you have a downtown Cedar Springs URL, whatever it is, in theory, you don't need to build out a whole new website. You can just have, you know, interested in opening a business or, you know, whatever, and it links directly to this clearinghouse that's on the city. Find out what's happening in Cedar Springs and it links, you know, you don't have to recreate the wheel.
Right.
But if everything that you're doing says, find out more at downtowncedarsprings.org or whatever the URL is, just so you're sending everybody to the same spot for everything, then it just becomes sort of second nature over time. So you're not pointing people to 5 different things. You're pointing everybody to a single thing that just happens to have all this information that you're talking about.
Updates our website pretty regularly, so if we have, is that you? Okay, all right.
And I
That's-
will say our website currently is incredibly user friendly,
Yeah.
so
Agree.
that's something that we're trying to, as the city, work on developing a new website, which costly, but in time consuming, incredibly time consuming. But yes.
There's a large portion of our community that does not get online, nor will they ever get online.
Yeah.
So that is why I say it's about having something printed, because I do estate sales and moving sales. I do a lot of stuff online, but a very large portion of my customers never get online. So I have to contact them.
So I would say with our current website, I haven't tried to help myself recently, but if you go and put on the calendar and you put that, for instance, come up on March.
Mhm.
It may. Won't you? I'm not exactly sure how great it's going to print. Where, of course, the sites that we're looking at would make that so much, so
Mhm.
much more.
Has this group, the DDA, had like and again, I'm not trying to create more meetings or more work for the sake of it, but has this group ever had sort of like a small but mighty like marketing committee or that sort of thing to like dive into this stuff? Like, if there's like 3 or 4 people that feel really strongly about this and want to try to move this thing forward, I would recommend those sort of conversations are going to be much more productive than trying to do everything in your board meetings, you know, on a monthly basis in terms of these sorts of tactical sorts of things.
And it's hard for a board like this because the bandwidth is only also so great. We're all doing other things. So, yeah. April, you're on the Facebook page too, aren't you? Yeah, okay.
So there's a bunch of stuff here and I'm worried about just continuing to add things. I ask the question one more time. What does the DDA's, is this the extent of where we feel as the DDA feels like we can help with the downtown activity and events? Because note that there is not anything specifically spelled out on increasing our financial contribution.
Well, that is a question. I mean, would it make sense to the city website? I mean, actually hire someone and redo it? I mean, it might be in 2025.
We have to bid it out. And it's just time consuming. We're collecting numbers to put it in the budget starting July 1.
Is budgeting for somebody else to maintain it because you have to, I mean, listen, we just did this with the chamber. It was a whole thing.
I see the library is post launching our new website, and we went through a company that works specifically with public face government entities. I will give Darla that contact information because they do all the work for you, but there is a cost to maintain it. but it's pretty cost effective for like, the upfront cost is nothing, but it's that monthly cost over time. But we started this process in January and we're already gonna launch in March.
Wow.
So,
Really good.
that's all they do, that's all they work on is these kinds of websites, we're doing the current website, we'll do the back end.
More interfaces though at the city level, like, you know, our ordinances and linking to,
Maybe they're competent, but they're really good. It's just.
Great.
we talked about increasing the contribution to the Wednesday night summer concert series.
I meant, because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I emailed, Hillary at the brewery lines up our entertainment for us and
That one's, it is hard because, you know, you certainly, again, when you're talking about casting a wider net, what would be helpful, I think, is having a lot more of input of the kinds of acts that people do want to see. And she's more than happy to go, and she's got a good network too. The one thing to keep in mind is, as I think she responded, that you can spend a lot of money in a hurry with bands, because bands are all about taking checks. They're
a week.
about $600 a week, I think, is what our average has been right now. And, you know, you get to that next level and you're gonna be at 1,000, maybe 2, maybe 4. I mean, suddenly you can really, you know, spend some money on this. And I don't know that is if it's we've had some really good acts there. You know, it'd be just nice if we can continue to build that audience in I mean, it's weather dependent too sometimes. And the most expensive act we ever had, we had 98 degrees and nobody showed up, so.
Well, also I think with with the concert series, unfortunately, every town is having them. You know, and it depends on the night. So it's to get the word out that that certain band is here. Because there are a lot of people that follow certain bands, and if you could do that, but so that's just trying to get the niche of what's different about your area than somebody else's town too, for the, you know, for the comfort and what's here when they come for the concert.
Well, and I personally think that we should have bands at our new park across the street. I think we should do that. Maybe not a band, maybe just a guy with a guitar, like maybe once a month or something, because let's be honest, having everything in the heart is amazing. I love that we have it there. It's such a beautiful location, but sometimes people don't move towards further down the street, you know what I mean? So maybe having another one at the park we have over here would be smart as well.
Is Teresa coming back?
I haven't reached out to her yet. I hope she is.
Is that maybe even something with your Michigan Experience GR? I mean, there are a lot of these website listing things where you make a list of those and go, all right, that's part of your duties, is to make sure that that calendar is on there, and trying to spread that word a little farther and wider. You know, in the contract itself, we can ask the bands too to promote through their network. Some do, but some don't necessarily.
I've always kind of wondered, and I'm not asking for that. I've always wondered why, you know, you get a lot of the towns outside of, you know, like I think you said, Lisa, everybody, like most of these towns are doing it. Why doesn't Sparta, Cedar and Lowell and Middleville and everybody sort of like, I don't want to say go in together, but it's like, hey band, instead of us booking you 6 different things, here's a bulk rate and here's the calendar, and you know what, there seems to be like some sort of opportunity there. Cause like you said, it is every day of the week, there's multiple communities having these sort of music in the park sort of things, which is fantastic, but I feel like there's gotta be some sort of way to partner anyway.
Brown, it's not a bad idea.
Okay, so do we want to leave this as sort of a non-committal thing in terms of increasing the dollar amount for?
Would love more money for a band for New Year's Eve. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody knows that I want a band for New Year's Eve. It's not been a ginormous shock, so I have a specific band in mind.
You don't think they already have a thing for New Year's?
They didn't last year. Yeah,
DJ was great, but I
yeah,
just thought he did a great job.
yeah.
And we don't
Weather
necessarily
is a
have to
real
put
hard
it in
thing with
today,
outdoor
it's just
bands.
always- Or down the road, from a financial perspective, if you can point back to us like, hey, guys, this was one of our goals to increase the. increase the level of- Yeah. What do you think?
Who wants more money for a band, right? Or you wait a month for a next meeting, somebody's gotta make that decision.
So with the band comes, we need a tent, then we need heaters, right?
Yes, that's what we're.
So,
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
with weather.
but
Sure.
we have to put it on a side street because we can't take the tent down, you know, after midnight. So it has to go on a side street so it can be taken down the next morning. Otherwise, it's thousands of dollars for them to take it down that night because we have the road closed off, which would be fine. I mean, put it over there. That's easy. Put it on a side street. No big deal.
That's why we need a pavilion.
Right, so what I put in there, but just explore increased funding for event entertainment. Just because in an ideal world, it sounds like this group would love to be able to raise the bar from the entertainment at events perspective, but obviously you have to crunch it based on all the other priorities and stuff you have, right? But at least here we're saying this is something that we would like to do. Is that fair? Just so we're not losing track of it. Okay. One thing I would like to ask, because I feel like the calendar stuff, the website stuff, the promotion stuff, whatever, that can turn into a snowball really fast. Is there somebody who wants to take ownership of this and be like, all right, I'm gonna run point on this, moving this ball forward? Whether it's bringing back recommendations to the group as a whole or doing homework on what it costs to do this or, whatever.
I think that's why I was asking about our staff person, because somebody to do a lot of that legwork. I think it's fine to have a small committee that works with that person, but I don't think any of us have time to do all that.
Yeah, I'll figure out a way to wordsmith that, but okay.
Yep.
Are we comfortable with where this sits now in terms of the downtown activity and events? So I guess my next question is, do we feel like this checks the box of marketing downtown? It's a little bit semantics, but if you're putting all this event into marketing the activities in the downtown, does that kind of accomplish this already?
Mm-hmm. Perry, do you have any thoughts? Perry is the one that really does 99% of our events in town. So, do you have
Yeah.
thoughts, Perry? I mean, he heads up 99% of them. Like, is there anything else that we need, right?
Down, I have a
Yeah.
lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting more involved with, like, if we get all the events, if everybody can get. Is a member of a chamber finally. So we can put the city's link on the chamber's website, and we're still promoting one of our members. Getting more people to work together on getting their knowledge to each other about what we're doing, having an avenue of that positivity. And then best thing, like, yes, I know some people do not like print material. As Sally said, we still have a huge percentage of the population out there that does not use these things. So don't use Facebook, they don't use Google, social media because they, or whatever.
You don't know how. I don't know how.
Still investing in print material to a degree, I think, is a lost. That's the reason why we don't have a post anymore. Value of print ads, but how many times a week do you hear, oh, I missed our post?
Mm-hmm.
brochures, rad cards are great, especially for bringing in tourists. You can get them out in the airport, you can put them in hotels and the wider thing, but the real key with that is somebody's got to physically go out there and install them. Those places will lay them out, but it's a logistic issue of actually not just the printed materials, but getting them out there into those places, because they get exhausted. Now somebody's got to go restock them. So again, it gets to be a manpower thing, which gets into, I keep coming back to the focus on is, are we better off not budgeting and having a person and investing in it, that we have somebody that we can do some of these things with.
That brings us back to the Squire. They would be more than happy to take news from Cedar Springs. That's what they told me. We just got to bring it to them. That's all. It's a free newspaper. It's everywhere.
Dave, when you're talking about capacity, are you talking about sort of what you said from a budget perspective? Are you saying that we should think about increasing
We had a
budget
staff
for?
person last year that spent the summer with the city and was focused on some of the DDA thing, and she helped out at the concerts. She was on the social media stuff, and she was energetic, that particular individual was, but I'm just saying, would it, as part of our budget, would it not even be more efficient for us to be investing in a person like that, that can do a lot of these things that us as business owners volunteering on a board are not going to have the capacity to do? It's, it's a matter of resources. Obviously, our resources are going to be limited. We have a list of things that we want to do, and especially on this marketing thing, I mean, these are a lot of little things.
I am working on something internally with my existing staff, shuffling job duties and rewriting job descriptions. I'm hoping by July 1, I will have a staff, not a staff person dedicated to the DDA, but a staff person that has time to dedicate to the DDA. Yes. Professional time. Yeah.
Huge wish list, and we weren't supposed to make it big. We were supposed to make it little and do it well. But I mean, having somebody who's focused on that, perhaps it is guidance from some of us, but with the capacity to actually do that and focus on it, and oops, my phone's not ringing because the toilet just clogged, then I gotta go, so.
And ultimately, you can have the best wish list in the world, but if it's not executed, then what was the point, right? So that capacity piece is a big chunk of it. So so I guess that helps me understand further too. It's like, I guess I didn't really have a good understanding of the part-time coordinator that.
We're all a volunteer board, obviously, and everybody gives a shit about this community, obviously, but, we also are getting pulled in 1,000 directions at once, but having a person that can focus some time on these things, I think would be a far more efficient use of time, yeah.
Well, full-time, that's what we need.
Well, when we might get there, but
Yeah.
it isn't gonna be today, but.
That is something that certainly is the case, and I think most communities like this is, those of you who've raised your hand for this, you tend to raise your hand for all the things, right? So you're, pulled in a lot of different directions.
This was just said a little while ago that a lot of these events, it's some of the same handful of people that are doing a lot of these things, so.
Pardon these bags.
So this is outside of these sort of buckets here, and maybe this is more of just like it's in the city's wheelhouse versus the DDA's wheelhouse, but if you were coming out of here being like, okay, here is our kind of marching orders for the next 18 to 24 months, this is going to really sort of govern the way we move forward as the DA in terms of how we spend our time, how we spend our attention, how we spend our resources. Should increasing our capacity from a staffing perspective be something that's on here?
Yes.
Not a lot on here that's, most of everything on here, with maybe the exception of the stakeholder communications, is all external looking. It's all like towards the district. It's not internal to the organization. I don't think anybody's saying anything's broken, but it's like.
Yeah.
But so what does that look like? Is it a
Yes.
partnership with the city? Is it, so I guess my thought would be, and again, it's your plan, it's not my plan. my thought would be is, you know, these are two sort of ended up being bigger, I think, than I necessarily anticipated. Buckets of work, these two, add a third for capacity. Figuring out what that looks like, crunching the numbers, what does that look like moving forward? Can you find a creative solution? Put in a piece for stakeholder communications, and that's it. That's what I'd hesitate to go more than that.
You should. I mean, the rest of it, like, sort of hurts my stomach looking at it.
And that's okay. That's the purpose of this. I mean, we went through this a couple of years ago and we kind of were looking and going, hey, actually, we checked a few things off of that list. And there was a few things on there. We need to reevaluate, what our priorities are. Right. Keep those things on there is fine, but to your point, down the list a little bit, those might not be our focus versus the handful of things we already talked about over the next, 3 to 5 years, whatever it is.
All right, so we've kind of basically had the conversation about staffing. When I get sort of the draft of, I guess, sort of the marching orders, for lack of a better term, back to Darla for review, I'll sort of wordsmith this and whatever, and just kind of see what your guys' thoughts are on it. But I do want to make sure we have time to kind of figure out what this communication stuff looks like. So those are the things that I took away from our conversation last time. We want to include residents. That's something that's very regularly overlooked in DDAs. They don't really engage the residents downtown. Ways for business owners to connect with each other and share information and opportunities. I used the example of the library last time. What's a really easy way that the library can be like, hey, we'd love for businesses to participate in this cool thing we're having, 2 weeks from now. Is there a way to do that other than having to go down, door to door and, hand out flyers and, that sort of thing. And then there was a lot of conversation about this welcome wagon, for lack of a better term, maybe collaboration with the chamber to do that for when there's a new business. How do you get plugged in? How do you show a welcome? I asked about ribbon cuttings because I feel like that's sort of like a kind of a standard typical thing. It sounds like either you don't or it's kind of hodgepodge. Okay, you do. Oh, okay. Okay, I missed that then. Okay. So again, not to just add a bunch of stuff, but what are some tangible things that we can move forward with is, okay, here moving forward, we are going to do X. We are going to move forward to do this in terms of a communication with our stakeholders downtown.
Some,
Welcome basket.
everybody gives their cell phone number or email and it's a group chat thing. What did you mention last Tuesday night?
I'm trying to remember. There was a lot.
Like an app
Oh,
that everyone can collaborate together on.
oh, a Slack channel. Yeah.
That?
Yeah, I just have it. So, yeah, and you can put everybody in there and they can say,
Okay.
Slack, and you can remove yourself. It's the same type of thing. SLACK, Slack.
Is the chamber on it?
No, it's something I use for mine.
There's also one called Band.
Yeah.
That's what we use at the shop.
Okay.
Band, it's free.
BAN.
Who uses that for all the like school teams and stuff. It's great. Yeah.
What's it called, band?
It's an app.
And if you don't, and that's the sort of thing where, and I'm just referring to this because I have experience with that, but not with Slack. Band app is easy. If you want to have it on your app on your phone, you can, but you can also interface because you can have it set to where it'll send you email notifications and stuff. You can still utilize that without ever actually using the app itself if you're not an app person. So, yeah.
On WhatsApp too. I mean, that would be easy too. And I feel like everybody has WhatsApp. Right?
So what I'm putting on here is a Slack channel type communication tool.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fall in love with any sort of interface right now, but just
Right.
something
Explore.
that is, something that is a quick communication tool.
Mhm.
I mean, I think
be
some
Awesome.
organizations still use like listservs and Google Groups and those things that are more of a 2006, 2007 sort of thing, but they're still out there, and and some groups, still kind of use them. So it accomplishes the same thing. And that is also something that residents could plug into, DDA residents if they wanted to. Again, so they were aware of what was going on and ways to get plugged in, volunteer opportunities.
To the DDA district. That's, we got inform folks about that this is their tax dollars at work and
They include, because that sounds like a mandate. I think I would say like invite.
Mhm.
So they can if they want, yeah. Okay, so that accomplishes this. Do we want to formalize some sort of welcome wagon thing, or just like, hey, it would be nice to do this? We'll spitball on it.
Awesome. Because I get new people into my shop every time that tell me they just moved into town. Where's this? Where's that? They have no idea where to even go. And of course, I get out my little map and I say, well, that's over here and this is over there. And I spend more time talking to people that have no clue what's in this town or what's available. I miss a lot of things myself. I mean, I'm a business owner and I'm down here and I miss a lot of stuff that I don't know what's happening.
contact point for a welcome wagon.
There we go.
Yeah.
Because I've always felt did that.
All right.
Ask me about what places to eat breakfast and what places to have lunch and where can I get coffee? I mean, they don't know. Nobody seems to know.
A business or person or organization could bring contact information to you to,
I think you have to have, almost like a packet that says, hey, welcome to town. This is this business. Everybody's got some kind of form, whether it's a menu or something.
you're right.
That's the point.
Cards or brochures that you're putting together with events and that sort of thing to go into also. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I liked your idea last week that you had, like, all of us have a card. And if you see a new business open, you drop off a card and Jody drops off a card. And if that new business gets 5 or 6 cards, they're going to feel really welcome. It's the same card, just with a little bit of information on it, like where to
I felt like I
go.
was being too heavy-handed when I mentioned that, so I didn't want to.
I mean, we could have some here at the city and
The idea is just like, it's a, business card size thing that is, it doesn't have like a name. It doesn't have Jody's name on it. It doesn't have Lisa's name on it. It is, the welcome to downtown Cedar Springs. This is how to get plugged in. We're glad you're here. These are the ways. And it would in theory have some of these resources that we've
Links.
already talked about today in terms of how to contact them and how to get plugged in. This is how you get on our Slack channel. This is how you, whatever. And like I said, these things and have a handful in your car or have a handful in your purse or whatever. It's like you see, somebody moving in their fixtures into a shop downtown or whatever. You stop in, hey, I'm on the board. Would love to, learn more about your business. We'd love to get you plugged in. You don't have to divide and conquer, like you said.
Mhm.
If they have 4 people stop by over their first 2 days, then they're like, man, this place is great. Look how outgoing everybody is and whatever, it's a nice warm fuzzy right out of the gate. So something that's a pretty low barrier to entry.
next DDA meeting and they can
Yeah.
have under public comment, you have 4 minutes. Tell us about your new business.
Yeah.
We're all business owners in downtown. What a perfect group to know all that.
Maybe there's chamber membership information involved, Yeah. Yeah.
That.
All right. So how would does that make sense? I mean, is that something that we think that makes sense? Is there really something to look into? Okay.
Communication, it's all communication.
is really, really fabulous at doing stuff like that. Like she could put something together that we could order. At it, so just stop into the shop and she'll help you. I'll tell her she's helping you.
Okay, I think that'll capture that and I'll know how to sort of flesh that out. So. All right, not looking at anything south of what we have here, we basically have four buckets. We've got the business development piece that we talked about at length. We've got the moving the needle forward on downtown activities and events. We've got capacity, staffing conversation, and we've got the stakeholder communication bucket. Feel like we have a bunch of extra time and bandwidth to devote to other things.
Oh.
To me, that feels like a nice, well-rounded approach. And if you're 12, 18 months in and you're clicking on all cylinders and you've checked all these off, then it's like, all right, let's move forward. What's further down the list? You know? The only thing that I would put as sort of like a best practice that I would, I guess, just mention to folks is this strategic property acquisition. That's something that if the finances allow for starting to put money in the piggy bank for when a certain property eventually comes up on the market, or this anchor building in the downtown, want to take control of it so it doesn't fall into some deadbeat property owner's hands, or I'm doing like worst case scenario, where you can intervene and be like, okay, DDA is going to buy this building for $100 grand. I'm making up a number. And we are going to curate what goes in here, or we are going to do an RFP where we will sell it for pennies on the dollar to the developer who's going to do this specific thing to it. Again, very focused, hands-on intervention in the redevelopment of certain properties downtown. Or it could be for parking, it could be for a park or that sort of thing. I'm just saying that I've never seen a DDA that started at one point to bank, whether it's 10% of their TIF each year or that sort of thing, into a property acquisition fund. They have never, no DDA has ever regretted doing that. The only thing they regretted is not doing it sooner. So not saying, I'm just saying, if from my experience working not just as DDA director, but with other DDAs, that is a investment that 5-6 years from now, you could be really happy that you did that. Just throwing it out there.
I think we've done that, just not formally, but we have been carrying a balance that we've been using for some of the larger projects all along, so. Some of these parks and stuff that have come out of that, so. There is a little pocket of, there is a head start on doing that, just hasn't specifically been denoted as this is an acquisition fund. But it's been more of a major projects fund.
Okay. So kind of 6 with one, you have dozen another. Okay. So you guys have a history of doing that already. So, okay.
Need to identify the ones that we would like to potentially, I mean, off the top of my head, there's one that just sold that makes me crazy that we didn't get. So.
Crazy.
And that's something that, you know, as you guys are doing the inventory of properties and stuff downtown, that's sort of a strategic conversation that you can have. I mean, and again, I'm knocking on wood and whatever, but if there was ever
Needs to be torn down like it does.
close up or need it, it's like you would want to say blasphemy. That's what I'm saying. I'm knocking on wood. I'm just saying as an example, because that's a situation where it's not just a commercial building, right? That's something where you'd want to be like, okay, this has to redevelop, or this has to move forward in the right way, where that gives you an opportunity to get involved and whatever. So just throwing it out there. Okay, so if we're good with how we ended up that conversation today with those 4 buckets, unless anybody has any additional thoughts or comments or anything like that to add, I will go back and wordsmith this up, include a bunch of the, I guess, summarize sort of comments and that sort of thing from the survey, and summarize a lot of the conversation we had last time and today, and get you guys sort of like a quick 2-page sort of action list based on this today that you guys can take moving forward. You can formally adopt it, you cannot. Some DDAs do, some don't. But it's totally up to you guys. Does that sound cool?
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you, guys. Conversation and for just jumping into it today without a lot of, yeah, thank you.
Personally, Travis, thank you. I know we've worked together in the past, but best of luck in your new venture.
Around from time to time, still same geography, so.
Music.
Moving on then. Folks, we're back on our meeting then. We do have a recommendation to city council for the DDA budget, which is 8F, and that budget is contained in your packet on page 41. Take a moment to review that again. Now, the revenue is our expectation, correct, Darla?
When I did this a couple months ago, estimated tax revenue, I would say is about 90,000. We've brought in 86,000, 87,000 current year to date, which we've pretty much captured all of our taxes. 3% increase was 3% or rate of inflation, whichever is less, was the increase this year. So we'll be bringing in about 90. So 63,200 expenses already identified. We have about 26,800 more if we wanted to amend any of these line items. Like I mentioned a while ago, I'm working with existing staff, shuffling duties, hiring a new person on the lower end. In the past, we've had a $10,000 contribution. It's not in this year, but towards an assistant city manager with other duties. 10,000 was the budget. Can I request 10,000 starting July 1 towards this person I'm trying to identify?
And that person gives us some hours, right?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Well, I think it's an excellent time to do that. Obviously, we've always, as we just mentioned a moment ago, left a few dollars rolled over for some of these larger projects. I see you also have a potential request for the Heart Grant project as well for an additional chunk.
So current year, we contributed $30,000 towards Heritage Park. That was a $500,000 project, and $20,000 towards the parking lot on Second Street. That was a $5 to $90,000 project total. I thought, my personal opinion, 10 was a little light, but that's a $600,000 project. If you could afford another 10 to make that 20 total, the city would really appreciate it.
Excuse me, what exactly are you talking about right now for the ditch?
Springs Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund grant. The city's been awarded a $300,000 trust fund grant. We're matching 300,000. The DDA is proposing 10. Would you be willing to propose 20 towards that project? I think we're gonna need it.
Absolutely.
So we'd have an extra 10 there. We'd have 10 towards your assistant director. There's another 20.
Assistant director. Excuse me. Assistant director. And you commented that we get
Some hours.
some hours. What percentage are we paying to get that? May I ask?
10 is what was in the past. I mean, only gonna,
An hour, that's not enough. That's what I'm saying. If we're getting half, that's too much. I don't know.
Well, we've already have a concierge in here, a summer concierge, which is 12 hours a week for 13 weeks. That's in there. We did not adjust the budgets at all for concerts
no.
in this. We adjusted any of our other again, 15K in the facade improvement program, which we may or may not spend depending on application.
Right. My only point was it was fair to get our money's worth. If we're gonna put in $10,000, we gotta get $10,000 back, or a good portion of that back.
Is it possible to table this until our next meeting?
We're making
No.
we're just making a recommendation, right?
The budget workshop with the city council is March 20th. So if you don't approve anything today, nothing's going to be presented to council.
And this is a budget. This isn't stone. We're not engraving anything.
So at the chamber meeting, this email was supposed to go out on Friday, but a couple different people were supposed to approve it and only one person responded. So we were gonna ask the DDA to maybe sponsor the Christmas carriage rides of $1,800. I have a whole email that I put together here, and then reallocating some funds that were originally allocated for the Beer and Wine Festival of $5,000, but I didn't see that on here. Putting 2,000 of that towards the Ren Fair. And then co-sponsoring some radio advertisements for different events that are happening in downtown. From July to December, we spend $1,000 a year, but kind of splitting that with the chambers, so $500 for that. And Darla, I can send this all to you as well, and then adding some lights on the bridge, some more Christmas lights, because you know I'm the Christmas light lady.
Want these guys to entertain it today, though. It's got to be part of the motion.
Well, but Beer and Wine Festival, where are you?
So initially, we were remember we were talking about putting on a beer and wine festival. And initially, the DDA had said that they would contribute $5,000 towards that, but I'm not seeing it on here. And we were recommending that we reallocate that because there's no way we can pull that off this year. Reallocating a couple $1,000s to the Ren Fair, because the Ren Fair had just a tremendous turnout. Right, and so helping them grow that event would be a big deal. I mean, how many people did you have in the first hour, Perry?
Well, first hour, yeah.
Yeah.
350 before I got to the sidewalk from the park over there, and by the time I got into the corner by the rock, you just couldn't count people.
And a lot of businesses said like, I think Jody said she got just slammed. Yeah, we're pretty busy for that. I mean, that brings commerce to our town. That's a big deal.
Because I think we'd even had a bigger turnout. Most people that talked to me said, I didn't know anything about that. We didn't know anything about it. We would have dressed for that.
That's why we're saying, like, if we can do a radio spot all year round that talks about the different, things that are happening in our downtown, that's how we got all the people from Grand Rapids for New Year's Eve. I mean, the chamber spent the money for that, and if the DDA would help with that, I mean, we're bringing business to our town. So we're asking for $500 for that. And I know that I'm squirreling off topic here, but I didn't realize we were doing the budget today. So here we are. And I think we're covered on the Christmas lights because you have allocated 4,000 and we really only spend a portion of that. So that one we would be covered on. But I mean, how do you guys feel about putting $2,000 towards the Ren Fair to help with that? I mean, because it did, Dave, you've seen an increase in business, I'm sure.
No, that's a cool event. Absolutely. I don't.
The chamber have to spend on that.
So asking you guys to contribute 2,000.
Well,
Well, yeah,
we have, we didn't spend 5 on the New Year's event last year, did we?
2,000.
no, but we're going to this year because we're gonna make it bigger.
I mean, I think he's still got extra from the 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that we can peel even, we'd be doing 50% more if we did 3,000 this year and peel 2,000 right there, and you've got it for that
Right.
covers your Renaissance contribution and it covers your radio spots.
Enough? Okay, can I make a motion to make that happen, whatever Dave just said?
Well, We would simply be adjusting this. So if we looked at the budget that's in your packet, we would be reducing the New Year's to 3. We would be adding Renaissance for 1,500 and well, it would be radio spot for 500, 2,000 total. We would also be adding 10,000 to the grant project, and we would be adding 10,000 as a contribution for an assistant city director. So your entire budget is going up to 83,2. Following that?
Christmas carriage rides.
So if we look at it now, our total expenditure is 63,2, right? So we're adding another 10 to the grant, so that's 20. We're adding 10 to the assistant city manager. That takes us a total of 83,2. If we look at the line item for the New Year's Eve event, we are dropping that to 3. And then we're adding, call it 2,000 just for simplicity for the Renaissance, but 1,500 would be for Renaissance and 500 would be as a co-op for the radio spot. Well, no, she said that's for the chamber in general, right? So that's why I separated originally, correct? But that keeps the numbers the same.
Come up with $1,800 for the carriage rides.
Festival.
No, we would not be doing that.
Run festival, cross that off. $1,800 for the carriage rides. So we do the carriage rides every year and the chamber has historically paid for 3 weeks of it. I mean, and it's $1,800 a week, so it's very expensive. And we just feel like we want to partner with the DDA because it's a lot for us to take on. Plus,
For downtown too, isn't it?
Looking at the items, then is there anything else in there that can be peeled to do that? Otherwise, we're dipping into our contribution to fund balance to add that.
What public art do we have?
yeah, do we have any public art happening this year?
It's an annual thing. I don't, that's why I needed clear,
Take $1,800 from there.
It'd have to be 1,800, we could buy with 1,000, or maybe that'd help a little, or anything would help you, but
Well, if we reduce
reduce
banners or public art, then it would be 3,200, and then we adding a line item for 18 for
carriage rides.
carriage rides. And again, this is budget, guys. This isn't in stone, so.
I mean,
Denise, why aren't you doing this?
we spent $2,000 on flowers last year. I mean, we might be able to peel it out of there too.
I think our flowers should look nice.
I do
this
too.
year.
I mean, I'm the one that started that.
I know,
I'm
you
the
did a
one
good
that-
job.
Good God, for hours. But,
We know how much they cost.
I mean, they're not cheap. I will tell you that. They're
Plus
not.
the upkeep of the ones that we have.
With us, April? Okay, thank you.
On the street, but we didn't get them till late in the season. That's why they were 50% off.
So just
Let's
summarize this real quick, guys, because we're moving in here on, you guys are killing me. We're well over an hour. So, all right. Laura, do you have something else?
2 hours.
Yeah, we allocated 2 hours for this meeting.
Still. So we'd be reducing the banners of public art to 32, adding the line item for the carriage rides. We would be reducing the New Year's event to 3, adding 1,500 for Ren Fair, 500 as an advertising co-op. We're adding another 10 to the grant project, bringing that to 20, and we're adding 10 for assistant city manager. Our total then expenses would be projected at 83,2. That leaves us the same the same overage of 7,800, given the expectation of 90-ish. Yep. So I would entertain a motion for that proposed budget for the 25-26 year.
I'll make that motion.
Any other discussion?
It looks great. I'm glad we're doing more with the chamber since they are downtown. Great activities.
Budget, not an expenditure, so I would ask all those in favor to please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Correspondence then, we have our 2025 calendar. You will see on page 42 of your budget. I'm sure everyone will be enthralled with the reading. And move on to the city manager, DDA director report.
I just wanted to thank everybody for the efforts on this exercise with, Travis. I looked from this thing that was done in 22 and I'm like, I don't know what's next priority on the list. So, we were able, like Dave said, cross quite a few large items off. So, I think the Heart of Cedar Springs, this next grant will be a great addition down there for a restroom facility and playground. Excited to work on that. We've selected a contractor for our new city hall. Construction Simplified. We already had a meeting last Wednesday with them. Really identified what we need in a new city hall compared to what we have here. And DPW. We'll have bi-weekly meetings with the architect, engineer, and city until we have a preliminary design. Then we'll share that as soon as we have it with all the boards and
Preliminary expectation for what will happen with this space.
it'll be for sale, this building. The city need it and the building next to us. We don't need that. We're gonna keep the building down by the staging area for our like road closure signs and stuff for storage.
This is just for redevelopment or?
It'll be for sale.
So many memories.
Yeah, so I'll keep you in the loop as the city hall project develops.
Little corner, did you get that little house with it too? Okay, I wondered if you guys got it.
We did buy the strip where the house was that Rollins tore down. That is city property in the front.
Parking lot for
I
the,
just was gonna say, that's a great parking lot. I hope so. Yeah, for red flannel.
the athletic.
Oh.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Cars lining that road.
Anything else? Thank you. We'll move on then to trustee reports. And I always look forward to Mr. Byers' comments. Ms. Holland?
That meeting, I was unavailable, but sounds like you guys did a great job. Thank you. Good work.
I'm all set. I think we've talked enough.
Well, it starts like this. It's not that bad, Bernie. I asked Darla to copy this, but it was the wrong sheet. This is part of a future plan. This is the sheet I wanted you guys to have. This is our official zoning for our city. So Darla, this one over here. Oops.
So the one that was on the desk, we don't want that.
No.
No. Oh.
Anyway, that is the official. So that would be council approved. For 2023. Lot more details, lot more information.
Sorry about that, you guys. Very happy to see everybody and the progress we're making. It's just something planning commission is looking at. It's just a draft. It's not the official. The official one has more details. And
Oh, she's getting
Yeah.
this right now.
I hope you got the right.
See ya.
Sounds like it's running really well. for her in there.
It's important for us to know where our zoning is. I give you the wrong darn paper. While we're waiting.
We go back to Mr. Byers' comment.
Bernie, you don't have anything to say about snow?
Now, except it's that far out in the street on the, by the curb right now. We're good.
God. Oh, snowman, Bernie.
That's coming from here. This is non-revenue generating. of course.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, the Red Flannel Festival is looking at joining the Guinness Book of World Records. We're working on it now for the most people at one time wearing red flannel long johns, I believe. And so if you can go into the Guinness Book of World Records website and build an account. And if you do, you can go to events, and we're already on the events, but we haven't been approved. So the more of folks that step up and say, oh yeah, this is important stuff and we want it on the records.
So send me the link. We'll put it on our social media.
Anybody ever thought about doing something other than bands? Like a comedian or somebody that's got a stage act?
Yeah.
No, but I'm not in general, other than a band.
Trivia or something, what do you?
Oh, no, there's
Yeah.
plenty of talented
Yeah.
people around, even if it's a, like I said.
Thinking about that. I mean, we're, whatever, we're just booking, but, you have to.
I feel like they have different nights. But look,
It would be up here, right? Yeah, no, I was looking at this and like, oh.
Oh, you know why? That keeps people from thinking.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, so.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Rose, did you have, oh, she's run off. There she is.
they don't.
All right. Do you have comment on?
Comment as an apology for giving you the wrong thing, and thank you, Darla, for printing it. And on we go. I'm just very happy about progress we've made. And remember, communication is key to all of this stuff.
Denise, did you have any?
Thanks for your time, Travis.
But I'm glad I made it to this one, and I really enjoy the way that the DDA works together with businesses and the city. And thank you for your time and trying to find what we need to work on to get more businesses and more people downtown. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And again, I know we talked about doing this for a long time. I think this, regardless of the hustle and shuffling the dates around it, I think this was very effective, again, to reestablish our priorities for what we're doing for the first time in 3 years. And I think it's a great sign that we actually needed to do that, because we have checked a few things off the list. So my thanks to everybody on that volunteers their time and their tears and their energy to make positive things happen here. It's rising tides lift all boats. So it's great to see. We do have our annual Stark Beer tent coming up on the end of March 29th. So if anybody's out for a root beer, and there will be a sausage fest, so be sure to stop in for that. But otherwise, thank you so much, and I do not need a motion to adjourn.